Welcome to the Carasoft Data Center Innovation Series, where we dive into the trends and issues shaping the future of data centers in the public sector. I'm your host, Carasoft Consulting CTO Scott Robon. The focus of today's episode is innovation in data center computing. The hunger for compute, especially with the rise of AI, is driving all sorts of new technology and new delivery models in the data center arena. To help us unpack all this, we're super pleased to have Jimmy Kelly, Senior Director, Data Center Sales and Strategy at Dell Technologies, here today. He's going to talk about what he's seeing in data center innovation, not just in compute, but across the wide range of technologies and solutions that Dell offers into the data center ecosystem. So let's get started. Jimmy, welcome. It's great to have you with us today. Can you give listeners a brief intro, a little bit of your history in the data center world and your role today?
Yeah, good morning, Scott. Thanks for having me. Yeah, look, I've been at Dell EMC for about 12 years, and primarily my principal responsibility is the storage piece for all of Federal. So I work very closely with the executive leadership team, and together, we make up about a $9 billion book of business here at Dell. And we're a leader in the industry. I'm excited to have a conversation with you today. We've been working with Carasoft for a very, very long time. So I'm excited, man. I'm listening. I'm looking forward to answering some questions.
Very good. Well, that relationship between Dell and Carasoft has been critical, I think, for both our organizations. You have a lot that's impacted your go-to-market with partners and direct. In the Fed space, what's changing? What are the things driving how you're getting your products and solutions to your federal and public sector customers?
Yeah, great question. Let me just couch a couple of things, and look, it is 8 o'clock on a Friday morning, and I would not be doing a podcast with very many people. But when Carasoft rings and asks me to do something, it's my privilege to embrace that. And I love just working with you guys. I mean, I go back in my time with at EMC, Dell EMC, Dell Technologies, probably into the 2011, 2012 era with Carasoft. And I've got some very deep relationships over there. And you guys provide a unique set of services to our sales team and our partner community at large, to include multiple campaigns and marketing efforts that you run on our behalf. So I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you for that continued commitment and that level of effort. I like to say one hand washes the other, and they both wash the face, and it's a privilege working with Carasoft.
We humbly thank you for that, and I'll play it right back at you. Being involved in the Dell relationship for me has been an incredible growth experience, and I mean that sincerely. I've been in the IT and networking arena for 35 years, and I'm still learning and just soaking it up from the Dell perspective. So thanks for that.
Right on, right on. We definitely have a good working relationship, and it's mutually beneficial. Well, first off, let me recognize a couple of things. We at Dell are a leader in the industry, and we approach that position very humbly, and we all also take that position very seriously. We
Sure.
recognize that comfort and growth do not coexist, Scott.
Right.
Uh, and our government right now is making some really, really big changes at a broad level, and it's impacting everyone, and everyone's feeling it. That ranges from tariff implementation to the procurement process, the vehicles that can be used for
Sure.
purchasing, etc. Now, I come from a military background, and we have an old saying, and it goes something like this: we adapt, we improvise,
Nice.
overcome,
Overcome.
or die. And I'm blessed to work at Dell and work with a group of people that also accept and live by that mantra, especially given the circumstances today. So we have a vision at Dell, and that vision is to be the essential technology company in the world. And we genuinely believe that our charter is to create technologies to enable human progress. Now, I did not come up with that. I cannot take responsibility for that, Scott.
But you can use it.
I
You can
can
use it.
use it, and I have used it many times. But Michael said that. Michael Dell said that one day. And when I first heard him say it, I said, man, that's provocative, you know? Now let me dig through that. And I did, and I have, and we live by it, you know. And so when we talk about creating technologies to enable human progress, and you start to really understand what Michael's talking about, it rings out to you, and you start to live by that mantra. That's why we continue to invest roughly $3 billion a year in R&D, and we've committed to doing the same for the foreseeable future. You know, one thing that rings out to me, and I think you and I have talked a little bit about this in the past, but customers want to do business with fewer, more strategic partners at this point. That's where we come into play. You know,
Sure.
we have a point of view, we have a repeatable framework and solutions to help our customers create a vision and an executable roadmap to best position them for long-term success. And we also have the luxury of many lessons learned because we've got a lot of stick time. And so with those lessons learned comes best practices. And I think that puts us in a great spot to be a difference-making IT partner to all the various customers that we mutually support, right, across the federal space. So Dell, more than any other company, IT company on the planet, really, in my estimation, is capable of providing all the essential infrastructure for organizations to build out their digital future, transform their information technology, and ultimately protect their most important asset, which is their data. So to accomplish these goals, I'd say, you know, we depend heavily on our partners, very heavily on our partners in our channel community. With some of the things going on in the federal government, the discussions that are taking place right now, there's a lot up in the air, and there's some anxiety that's
Sure.
coming from that. I'm sure you feel that. So for anyone out there that's listening and that falls into this category, let me be crystal clear. The customers want to do business with fewer and more strategic partners. That's where Dell comes into play. We have a point of view, we have a repeatable framework, and we also offer solutions to help our customers create a vision, executable roadmap to best position them for long-term success. I always talk about the fact that we had the luxury of many lessons learned because we've got a lot of stick time. And with those lessons learned, we are able to glean best practices, and then that puts us in a great spot to be a difference-making IT partner to the various customers that we all support. Um, Dell Technologies, more than any other IT company on the planet, is capable of providing all the essential infrastructure for organizations to build out their digital future, transform IT, and ultimately protect their most important asset, which is their data. Um, I have to say this, Scott, because there's a lot of anxiety in the air right now with some of the announcements that have been made and some of the speculation going on. But we depend heavily on our partner community, on the channel. And so for anyone that might be listening, I want to be crystal clear where we fall out in this category, and that is we can't do this without you. We do this in tandem with Carasoft in direct support of our channel community and ultimately the end user, the federal government. So make no mistake about our stance, what we think, and what we lean into every day.
Yeah, appreciate that for sure.
Sure.
I do love the view of having a clear technology vision and what you can do. That's all coming from largely commercial innovation, and then individuals like you who understand mission and what it means to adapt, improvise, overcome, or die. Right? That's a very important phrase for people to understand.
Mhm.
You know how to bring these technologies to different federal, DoD, Intel, and other environments. Let's talk about some of the big things that you're seeing. And you have a data storage background. Why don't we start there? Um, and just focus on with the AI. I don't want to call it craze, but the
Mhm.
significantly increased focus on I feel like there's a pendulum swinging back to data and how important data is to any model training and execution. What are the big things? Anything from Dell Tech World earlier this year? Or what's important from a data perspective there?
Wow. Okay. Yeah, look, I could talk about this for quite a while, and even then, I wouldn't hit everything that's important or things that I want to talk about. So I'll probably let me take that in a couple different parts, Scott. That's a
Sure.
big question, right?
It is. Yep. Yep.
So 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 I'll peel it back a couple different ways, and then inevitably I'm going to go, damn, I forgot to say this or talk about that. But I
We're
think
not going to cover it all. We can't. So
we
don't
can't
don't
cover it
sweat that
all.
at all. That's right.
But
Yep.
I'll come back, my man. I'll happily come back and talk about some other things and provide some perspective. Um, I think the market has dictated certain innovations in data center technology, and it's emphasizing, modernization, efficiency, and response to emerging trends. And you mentioned, the AI craze, so. So I'll hit a couple things from an innovation standpoint. The first is, the acceleration of AI adoption. And boy, oh boy, there's a lot happening there. We have what is referred to and recognized in the street right now as the Dell AI factory.
Right.
Now, folks have, parochial knowledge of what does that really mean? What is an AI factory and what is it that Dell is doing that's unique and specific? The whole idea there, regardless of who you are, is to bring AI closer to the data, trying to enhance the performance and minimize, the latency, and at the same time increasing security. So, it's not a one size fits all, Scott. It's
Sure.
we have to be thoughtful in our approach and what we're doing, and we want to help organizations of all sizes accelerate their AI innovation. And so we've come up with some unique ways to accomplish that goal. The factory itself is it's I hate to use the term factory, but it is what it is. But essentially, it's comprised of a portfolio of product solutions and services that are optimized, to answer the call for or ring the bell for specific AI workloads. So how do we do this, right? We first things first. I Everybody has to understand the fact that it is important to focus on helping our customers curate and prepare their data, which is foundational. You mentioned data and my background in data storage. Well, data is the foundation for any successful AI initiative, even if those projects aren't necessarily fully defined or baked yet. So our role is not just to respond once a customer has an AI project in flight, but we want to guide them early. We want to position Dell as a trusted advisor, a partner from the very start. So at the end of the day, my thought is AI outcomes are only as strong as the data foundation behind them. When we engage customers in discovery, it's essential to emphasize that, investing time and resources now into data curation is well worth the effort. What do I mean by curation? I'm talking about organizing your data, labeling your data, securing your data, managing your data. And that way, we can help you accelerate that time to value as those AI use cases start to emerge. So, look, all in, the federal government has been around a long time working with AI, but AI is now front and center as you suggested, right? There is a craze happening, and it's no longer just something that affects the most sophisticated agencies and programs of record. It's now mainstream, and adoption is a requirement. It's not a luxury anymore.
And it needs acceleration, right? We've seen in the industry and there's some wisdom in federal government organizations waiting and seeing what technologies take hold in the market. And so there's always a lag. But sometimes that lag can really, put resistance on mission and organization objectives, right? Um, on
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead, comment on that.
Well, no, absolutely. I mean, look at, there's so many companies out there. There's not a lot of OEMs that are, consequential in the market, but there's a lot of companies that are bringing some type of AI effort to the market. They're doing various different things. Hell, we work with, we have a large OEM practice where we work with software vendors that come in and we work some test dev, scenarios with our software on our servers, with our storage arrays, with some of our platforms, and then we take it to market. I think we've got probably the broadest AI solutions portfolio from desktop to data center to cloud, which enables customers to make a good conscious choice in terms of where they want to invest their AI dollars. We've got an open ecosystem with partners. I firmly believe that we offer an exceptional TCO up to 75% more cost effective than the public cloud. And oh, by the way, Scotty, I'm not taking a shot at the public cloud. I believe in the public cloud. Look, a multi-cloud approach, and I'll hit
Sure.
on that, is
Yep.
very important, right?
Yep.
But we've got we provide an exceptional TCO. We also I think that our time to value, we help customers significantly reduce that time to value, and we talked about the data being the fuel and how we do some of those things to put people in the best position possible.
Well, and so we knew that we'd come up to multi-cloud at somewhere in this conversation, right? And
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, of course, the multiple cloud, public cloud providers are important, and it's just like supply chain diversity, right? You want to make sure you're not too locked in with any one cloud provider. And we know there have been things that have kind of rocked this world from a multi-cloud perspective. What are you doing there to kind of help mitigate risk and make sure that people can put workloads where they need them, whether it's public cloud, gov cloud, private cloud, and moving workloads as necessary?
yeah. You're going deep this morning. I like it. Okay. Okay. All right. Yes. So, we talked, just from an innovation standpoint, we've got a lot going on with the Dell AI factory and AI innovation at large, got a big ecosystem. And then as the AI, um, scenario takes hold and everybody gets involved in that, there's a multi-cloud approach to how we do business. At one point in time in the federal government, the cloud first mantra ruled the day. And I think in some cases, I'm not being disparaging here, but I think in some cases, people over rotate it to the public cloud. And, they've learned some hard lessons there. We learned some lessons there, right? At one point in time, we were not in favor of the public cloud. We've now come to terms with the fact that it is an essential component of any organization's, IT modernization strategy. From
Hmm.
Dell's perspective, our strategy is fundamentally about a multi-cloud by design. That's the approach we take, Scott. The entire effort is centered on empowering organizations to kind of leverage their strengths, of multiple cloud environments, whether it be public, private, the edge, on premises, etc. But it's got to be based on something. And
Sure.
that something is the specific workload needs, the business priorities, and regulatory requirements, rather than defaulting to an ad hoc or siloed choice based on some governance, structure. And look at there, we've got probably there's three or four key aspects to it for us. Our solutions are engineered to run across multiple cloud platforms. It doesn't matter, public, adjacent via managed services, on premises. The idea is to ensure organizations place workloads where they best perform and meet cost, latency, and compliance, and security needs for that particular customer. The overarching goal is just to let business requirements, not technology limitations. Let me say that again. People have to get their head around the business requirements of the ask and the initiative, and not let technology limitations dictate where workloads reside, right? You want to support a flexible IT infrastructure, and you got to be able to adapt to evolving business models, and that gives you a lot of benefits, right? I think a second key aspect, is support for modernization of AI. The strategy closely tied to the data center. We tie AI into the multi-cloud, but the strategy is closely tied to modernizing the data center and accelerating AI adoption. And when AI endeavors are properly paired with a well thought out multi-cloud approach, I think, organizations stand to benefit the most. And then integration and management is another key aspect of our strategy. We've got a very healthy services organization. We've got a healthy partner ecosystem that provides, tools and methodologies for seamless integration. So there's a lot at our disposal to make sure that the multi-cloud approach is done properly and that you're leveraging AI to the fullest based on your business needs.
For sure. Couldn't agree with you more on that too. And as someone who is primarily rooted as a technologist and maybe for the first couple decades of my career really didn't want to have anything to do with the business and financial aspects of how I design a system, later in my career I couldn't have been convinced more that how primary that needs to be. And
Sure.
the ability to move workloads around clouds is a huge enabler to matching, what cost and services I need from a given cloud provider for certain data and certain applications. So we're in line there. The one other business impactful thing that's been big, for the last year and a half is, changes with VMware. And I know you've also done some specific things to help provide choice there. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see how best to couch that. And I make it a point not to ever be disparaging, with anyone. We enjoy and have enjoyed for a very long time a healthy relationship with VMware and now Broadcom.
For
You know,
sure.
we went to market, Scott, with our signature HCI product, VxRail, and I still firmly believe this is, the standard in that space. And so at the same time, a number of things have happened and business decisions are made. But when you sort the wheat from the chaff, at the end of the day, you want to provide the best solution to support the requirements and the needs of our collective federal customers. And
Yep.
VxRail certainly owns and will continue to be a major piece of that. I think I look at, options, right? And we want to give customers options. And so we talk about, three-tier architecture. We've hit the HCI piece a little bit, and now there's
Hmm.
some terminology out there that I know you're familiar with, but I'm not sure everyone is familiar with, but disaggregated infrastructure, right?
Sure.
And so as I bring those three things up, we sell it all. Our position is really, and I think this is important for everybody to understand. We in earnest attempt to take a consultative selling approach, kind of the old two ears, one mouth, right?
Right.
employ them accordingly.
In
So
proportion. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, you have two ears, one mouth, and if you deploy them in proportion, you're better off for it, generally speaking. We try to listen to the customer to better understand or to best understand, kind of, what are their workloads and apps that they're running? What's their current platform? Is it storage? Is it CI, HCI, three-tier? Et cetera. What are they doing? What's their budget? What's the size of their environment? What SLAs are in place? There's certain requirements called out around performance, security, availability, resiliency, et cetera. It's important for us to understand a little bit about the competitive presence. And then, finally, I want to know what's the customer's desired plan to modernization.
Yeah.
What do they want to do and why? They also have an opinion. They also are very intelligent people with lessons learned and lots of stick time. So once we have that frame of reference, then we can start to talk about the three-tier architecture. That's never going away. I remember when we introduced, HCI, and everybody said three-tier architecture is dead. Well, we recognize that three-tier architecture is not dead. It still has the ability to
Right.
independently scale compute, storage, and networking. It offers flexibility, but in many instances, it continues to struggle with complexity, manual management, slow upgrades, etc. And that makes three-tier architecture less suitable in today's environments with the demands and speed of change happening in modern data centers. Doesn't mean that there's not a place for it. It just means it's, slightly less desirable. If we pivot just real quickly into the HCI, we talked a little bit about that. But what did HCI solve for us, Scotty? Well, we know it provided simplicity by unifying compute and storage and networking into a single system. It
Some
helped us with
people,
floor space.
some people need shrink wrap systems, right? And have it homologated and tested and proven working together, right? So this is one very important flavor of choice out there. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you.
No, no, you're right. I mean, look at HCI is not going away. It solved a lot of problems for us from floor
Sure.
space, power and cooling. It certainly made life cycle management easier, more predictable. But it also has limitations. You can't independently scale components. It has a tendency to lock in customers into a single hypervisor or ecosystem. So there is still that option, but now we get into the disaggregated infrastructure piece. And this is where things are starting to get interesting and where we're starting to invest some intellectual capital in understanding and educating. The reason we're starting to position disaggregated infrastructure as the next phase of the data center evolution is because this approach kind of combines the flexibility of the three-tier we discussed
Yep.
with the operational simplicity of HCI, abstracting the compute, storage, and networking into shared resource pools.
Yep.
And that's pretty cool because it enables dynamic resource allocation, and it minimizes the vendor lock-in, and it's OS and hypervisor agnostic, et cetera, et cetera. It can run VMs, containers, bare metal, AI, whatever you want to do. And so we think disaggregated infrastructure is going to be a game changer. So, as workloads become more diversified and unpredictable for that matter, our recommended path is really clear at this point. And that is, hey, engage your Dell team about this disaggregated infrastructure offering. We think it's a strategic answer going forward for organizations that want to, efficiently support both the legacy and next gen workloads. That includes AI, gives you all the flexibility, the lower cost. It future proofs your organization. HCI is still going to serve specific use cases, but it's increasingly less favored for environments that require granular scalability or openness.
Yeah, I think the range of options and choice lets, IT organizations figure out what's right for them, in consultation, with their technology suppliers, right? And whether it's completely disaggregated infrastructure, kind of a roll your own, right? You can build whatever you want. You also are taking certain responsibility for building it the way you want. And we're seeing that in multiple tech domains too. In the mobility world, it's called Open RAN. In the routing and switching networking world, it's called disaggregated networking. And even open source software coming in for operating systems for networking devices. So it's given customers choice. That's one end of the spectrum. Then I've got the HCI systems and the shrink wrapped. Hey, this is guaranteed. It works together within these parameters. And then there's consuming as a service, right? Public cloud, private cloud, right? I've got such a wide range of options. It puts me in control as an implementer and a user, right? And I can figure out, okay, what can my organization handle? What kind of support do I need from Dell and Dell partners and so forth? It's a pretty exciting time, from an implementer perspective. It can be overwhelming too, which is why you need expert advice on going, direction A, B, or C.
That's right. Yeah, no, that's well said. I think we agree that choice is really, really important. Flexibility is really, really important. Understanding, how to contain costs is really important.
Yep.
And, I emphasize that consultative selling approach because far too often I think, vendors and partners alike get in front of customers and they've got a preconceived idea and or they only have the ability to sell limited solutions. Our greatest luxury is the fact that we have it all and we have the ability to position it all. And so if we take that consultative approach and we keep the end state in mind with the customer containing costs, having flexibility, maintaining, security, we can educate, take our time, and let the customer come to their own conclusion based on, um, credible and well thought out feedback.
You couldn't have teed that up better. One of my important roles that I play within Carasoft is helping our sellers ask the right questions to figure out which way to go, right? Who to engage, what are the right Dell contacts, and so forth. Based on some of those initial, what's your tolerance for, doing it yourself versus I just need it to work. Obviously, more nuanced questions than that, but yeah, it's important to figure out, put the customer in the driver's seat where they already are, right? How to support them and how they want to drive down the road. So,
It's
well,
fun. It's funny, Scott, you mentioned that. You remember the old build to buy? There was this build to buy
sure,
conversation. And in the old days, customers they wanted to build their infrastructure. I'm sorry, they wanted to build their apps and buy their infrastructure. Now they
right.
want, and now it's reversed, and we've had to adjust how we go to market based on customers, druthers and quite honestly, their skill sets now. So
Yep.
everybody's out there custom building their apps, and they just want to buy the solution to support their effort.
Right. And not to over rotate on AI infrastructure, but I think that's going to be a key place for maturation in the next few years, right? Are you able to buy and operate your own AI infrastructure? Are you better off consuming it as a service from some entity, whether that's a public cloud-like provider or like one of the federal SIs running their own AI clouds that meet certain security requirements for different DoD, and other agency requirements. I'm super excited to see how this emerges in the next few years. I think it's going to be a great time for people like us to work together and figure out how that's going to work.
Man, I I couldn't agree more. Look at I talked a little bit about what you asked me. I think the question you asked me was something about just where we're innovating, right? And
Right.
I led off. I talked a little bit about, the just what we're doing from an AI innovation standpoint, and I mentioned the AI or the AI factory. Um,
Correct.
I would be remiss if I didn't take just 2 minutes. Look at when everybody has a general understanding of what artificial intelligence is. We talk about the Dell AI factory. Um, what I've come to terms with is most people don't know where or how to get started. You
Right.
know, we have seeded a number of AI factories into various agencies, bureaus, departments, divisions, certainly across many of our system integrators. And there's a number of efforts going on out there. But I would encourage anyone, whether you're a partner or you're a smaller federal agency or bureau, we have something that we refer to as the AI starter kit. You know, so basically that's an integrated, it's a pre-configured bundle. I guess that's a good word, bundle
Sure.
designed to help organizations kind of quickly launch their AI initiatives with enterprise grade infrastructure. So it's not crazy, right? Uh, it's a it's power scale out NAS storage for
Yep.
petabyte level, unstructured data management. It's a combination of PowerScale and Dell PowerEdge servers, high performance compute for accelerated AI workloads. There's a Dell PowerSwitch. There's some validated AI software in there. We can scale that up and down. It's got various price ranges. As I said, we've done, seed units and we've done proof of concepts. So I just encourage everyone, don't let this be overwhelming to you. This is what we do. We have a qualified, very large group of people, more than willing and capable to come in and have the conversation with you. Listen to what it is that you want to do or think you want to do. Let us offer some best practices. We'll put something together for you and get you started.
I don't think you could have brought us to the final turn here any better. And I like the imagery of AI factory. I know it's again, the integration and homologation of everything you need to train and use models. But I also, I have an industrial engineering background. So I think of, we're taking raw materials, data, and we're turning it into information. And we're taking that information and turning it not just to intelligence, but actionable intelligence. And maybe when we see things get fully automated, we can actually see automated action, with the right guardrails and in the right scope based on that actionable intelligence. So I'm pretty hopeful for what's coming out here. This has been a great conversation. I'll give you the last word. Is there anything you haven't touched on that you want to make sure listeners hear about today before we wrap up?
I've said it a couple of times. I think we are in a unique position, given the depth and breadth of the services, the solutions that we offer. I'm not talking about products here. I'm not talking about world-class servers, our services organization, our high-end storage, our mid-range storage, our enterprise grade storage. All of those things are available. That content is available at your fingertips, right? To me, it's more about the vision, right? And I mentioned that up front. We have a vision to be the essential technology company on the planet, right? And Michael Dell genuinely, like this isn't a soundbite, Scotty, genuinely believes that our charter is to create technologies to enable human progress, right? And so he puts his money where his mouth is, and he's assembled a really good group of talent. And we're committed to this every single day. We've got a very large ecosystem out there of partners that help us. We lean into them. We do take that consultative selling approach. Look, listen, feel, two ears, one mouth. And I got to plug it one more time. We've got the power of Carasoft behind us. How can we go wrong? How can anyone go wrong out there if you select Dell Technologies and you work through our number one distributor, and you're so much more than a distributor, right? Carasoft, it's a winning combination, brother. And it is 8 o'clock on a Friday morning, but I genuinely appreciate the opportunity to come on and visit with you. And I look forward to doing this again anytime.
Jimmy, I can't I can only bring the podcast down from here after that ending. So we really appreciate you coming here today, and we appreciate anybody who's listening at any time of day. We were happy to do this early on a Friday morning. Look, we love the relationship that Dell and Carasoft have built together. We can continue to do great things together. Thank you, man. Listeners, thanks for tuning in. Be on the lookout for more episodes coming in the Carasoft Data Center Innovation Series. We'll talk to you soon.